I didn't know what to expect when I returned from the toilet. The bar was packed with people, the music deafening, and people talking to each other. I pushed my way through the crowd, trying to get back to the table I'd ID'd for my wife, Emily. But as I got closer, my blood started to boil. There was a guy sitting in my seat, his arm around Emily, as if she were his. She leaned into him, smiling, listening to whatever he was saying. The scene made my stomach turn. "You're in my chair," I shouted at Ed. Emily barely looked at me and said nonchalantly, "Honey, find another seat." Her eyes were still fixed on her new companion. Several people nearby started laughing, and I felt my face heat up with anger and humiliation. I grabbed the guy by the hair and yanked him out of his seat, throwing him to the floor with all my strength. He barely had time to react before I landed a punch right on his chin. He let out a scream, but before he could get to his feet, the cheers and shouts of the onlookers drowned out his cry. I kicked him hard between the legs, and he curled up in pain. But I wasn't finished. I wanted him to feel the anger welling up inside me, so I raised my fist and prepared to deliver another blow. Emily's voice broke the chaos. "Stop it, Patrick!" she screamed, grabbing my arm. "You're crazy, crazy," I retorted. "I'm crazy, you're crazy. In the 2 minutes I was gone, you got friendly with some stranger." Emily narrowed her eyes, her expression changing from surprise to anger. "He's not some stranger. This is Jack. My colleague. Your colleague." I responded incredulously, wondering when colleagues became so friendly. Emily rolled her eyes, a condescending smile curling the corners of her mouth. "Patrick, if you weren't so insecure, you'd know I couldn't believe what I was hearing." She turned the conversation back to me, making me look like the problem. Jack slowly got up, groaning in pain, but managed to give me a smug look. "Listen," Jack said, his voice quavering. "We were just having a chat. There's no need to get so worked up." I saw her blush with anger, her hands fiddling with her body. Emily stepped between us and pushed me back. "Patrick, you're embarrassing me. Go cool off somewhere else." The onlookers listened with relish, whispering and pointing. My humiliation was complete. After giving Jack one last glare, I turned and strode out of the bar, my fists clenched and my thoughts in a whirl. The night air was bitterly cold as I stormed out of the bar, but it did nothing to calm my anger. I walked aimlessly, my thoughts in a whirl, filled with betrayal and anger. How could Emily do this to me? The image of her and Jack laughing and joking stuck in my head, and it felt like hours before I found myself standing outside my front door. I hadn't planned on going home so soon, but my feet had led me here all on their own. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and hoped that this was all just a misunderstanding. Emily was already sitting on the sofa, a glass in her hand. She looked up when I came in, a mixture of annoyance and other emotions I wasn't quite sure about on her face. "You're back," she said, taking a sip of her wine. "Have you calmed down?" I clenched my fists and tried to control my temper. Fists, trying to control my temper. "Emily, what is wrong with you? How could you do that in front of everyone?" She shrugged nonchalantly and said, "You're overreacting, Patrick. Jack is just a friend, and we were having a good time until you decided to make a scene." "You say that easily," I scoffed. "And this is what you call fun? You were practically all over him." Emily rolled her eyes. "You're ridiculous. Jack and I were just chatting. If you weren't him, then safe, you'd see unsafe." I repeated my voice. "You called me unsafe after you flirted with another man in front of me." Emily put down her cup and stood up, crossing her arms crossed over her chest. "Yes, Patrick. If you trusted me, you wouldn't react like a jealous teenager." I took a step closer. Anger welled up inside me. "Trust? How could I trust you when you behaved like this? How many other friends did you have close to you when I wasn't around?" Her eyes flashed with anger. "You're unbelievable. Do you know what I did? I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm going to bed." She brushed past me and headed for the stairs. I grabbed her arm to stop her. "We're not finished yet. Emily, you need to explain." She jerked her arm back, her eyes blazing with anger. "Explain what? There's nothing to explain." "Patrick, you're the one who needs to control your emotions." Before I could respond, she strode up the stairs. Leaving me standing there seething, I heard the bedroom door slam shut, echoing around the empty house. I paced the living room, my thoughts racing. It wasn't just Jack's problem. There was a deeper reason, something Emily wasn't telling me. I needed to find out what it was. I sat on the sofa and tried to think clearly. Emily had been acting strangely for some time now. Working overtime a lot, texting constantly, missing work without reason. It was more than just friendly colleagues. I was determined to find out what was going on. I picked up my laptop and started searching. I checked her social media, looking for any sign of Jake or anyone else she might be spending time with. I checked her social media profiles for any clues about Jake or anyone else she might be spending time with. Her profile was carefully curated and showed nothing unusual, but then I noticed her Instagram stories. She had posted lots of photos of work events, and Jake was always smiling next to almost everyone. I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't a coincidence. There was definitely something going on between them. I close the laptop and my hands tremble with anger. I need to confront Emily, but I know it won't be easy. She's good at changing the subject and turning the tables, but I can't let it go. I have to know the truth, no matter how painful it is. I climbed the stairs and opened the bedroom door. Emily was lying on the bed, looking at her phone. She looked up, wary when I entered. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady, despite the turmoil inside me. She sighed, put down her phone, and said, "What now, Patrick?" I took a deep breath, ready to face the conflict. "I know there's more between you and Jack. I saw those photos. You have to tell me the truth." Emily's eyes widened, but she quickly calmed down. "What photos?" "You're paranoid, Dante. Don't lie to me, Emily," I said firmly. "I deserve to know what's really going on." She stared at me for a moment, then her expression softened. "Patrick." Just then, her phone rang. She glanced at it, her face going pale, and without a word, she grabbed the phone and walked towards the door. "Where are you going?" I demanded. "I want to answer this call," she said, avoiding my gaze. "Yes, work." I watched her leave. Fear tightened in my chest. I had a feeling this was far from over. After Emily left, the house was eerily quiet. I stood in the bedroom for a while, trying to make sense of what had just happened. She was clearly hiding something, and I was determined to find out the truth. I decided to start with her phone. It was risky, but I needed answers. I grabbed my laptop and connected it to the home network, hoping to find a way to access her phone remotely. It took a while, but I finally managed to get into her cloud backup. My heart was pounding as I scanned her messages, looking for something suspicious. The messages between her and Jack ranged from casual banter to more intimate conversations. As I read them, my stomach turned. The taste of betrayal grew with every word. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Emily had always been so affectionate and sweet. How could she do this to me? The more I read, the angrier I became. This wasn't just a harmless flirtation, it was an outright affair. I sat down and felt a mixture of anger and sadness. Emily had always been the pillar of my life, and now I felt like everything was falling apart. I needed to confront her, but I wanted to do it face to face. A few hours passed and I heard the front door open. Emily was back. I took a deep breath and went downstairs to meet her. She was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of water. When I walked in, she looked up, her expression wary. "Patrick, we need to talk." Her voice was surprisingly calm. I nodded. "Yes, we need to talk." We sat at the table, the tension between us palpable. I wasted no time. "I know about you and Jack." Her eyes widened at my bluntness, but they quickly returned to normal. "What are you talking about?" "Playing dumb, Emily. I saw the messages. I know everything." She sighed and her shoulders slumped. "Okay, yes, I've been seeing Jake, but it's not what you think." I smiled bitterly and said, "It's not what you think. You flirted with him right in front of me, and now you're telling me it's nothing." Emily shook her head. "Things are complicated between Patrick, Jack, and me. We spend a lot of time together because of work, and things just happened, that's all." I repeated incredulously, "That's your excuse? You're not even trying to hide it." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You don't understand. The connection between Jack and me is something you and I that we've never had." I mocked. "We've been together for years, Emily. I thought we had something special." She averted her eyes and her voice softened. "We did, but things changed. We changed. Dawn gave me that. I interrupted you. You cheated on me and now you're trying to justify yourself. Do you even care about us?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Of course I do. But our relationship has been changing for a long time. Patrick, you just don't see it. I feel a pang of guilt, but push it aside." "So what now? Are you leaving me for him?" She shook her head and tears ran down her face. "I don't know. I just need time to figure it out." I stood up. My anger boiled as the seconds ticked by. You have all the time in the world, Emily, and you choose to be with him. She didn't respond. Her silence spoke volumes. I can do this. My voice breaks as I say it. I need some space. I'm going to stay with friends for a few days. Emily nods. Her expression is one of resignation. I understand. I pack my bags and leave the house. My mind flashes with a million thoughts. I feel confused, betrayed, and alone. I need to sort my thoughts and figure out what to do next. As I drive to my friend Taylor's house, I realize this is just the beginning. Emily's betrayal had shattered our shared life, and I wondered if we would ever find our balance again. I drove aimlessly for a while, the streets gradually blurring as I tried to make sense of everything. Eventually, I found myself standing outside Tyler's apartment. I told him I was coming, but I hoped he would understand. I rang the doorbell, my heart racing. Tyler opened the door, his eyes wide with surprise. "Patrick, what are you doing here?" I sighed, feeling the weight of the past few hours. "I need a place to stay for a few days. Can I stay here?" He moves aside to let me in. "Sure, mate, come on in. What's going on?" We sit on his sofa and I tell him everything, from the incident in the bar to the message I found on Emily S.'s phone. Tyler listens quietly, his expression growing more and more somber with every word I say. "Jesus, Patrick," he says when I've finished. "I didn't realize things were this serious," I replied, running my hands through my hair. "I don't know what to do. I feel like the whole world is falling apart." Tyler nodded and leaned back in his seat. "It's a tough situation, but you can stay here as long as you need." "Thanks," I said, appreciative of his support. "I just need some time to think over the next few days." I tried to keep myself busy, with Tyler and I watching movies and playing video games and talking about everything except Emily. It was a welcome distraction, but the stabbing pain in my chest never really went away. One night, as we sat on the sofa drinking a beer, Tyler looked at me seriously and said, "Patrick, what are you going to do about Emily?" "I mean it." I took a big sip of my beer and thought about his question. I don't know, part of me wants to try to work things out, but another part feels that it's too late, and how can I ever trust her again? Tyler nodded thoughtfully. "Trust is hard to rebuild." I took a big sip of my beer and thought about his question. I don't know. Part of me wants to try to work things out, but the other part feels that it's too late. How can I trust her again? Taylor nodded thoughtfully. Trust is hard to rebuild once it's broken, but not impossible. The question is, do you think it's worth it? I stared at the floor as his words hammered home. I don't know. I admit I love her, but this betrayal is like a knife in my heart. Maybe you should talk to her. Taylor suggested talking to her and finding out why she did it. Maybe there's more to it than you think. I nodded slowly. Maybe you're right, but it's hard. He patted me on the shoulder. Bro, I'm behind you. The next morning I decided to take Tyler's advice. I needed to face Emily again, but this time I was determined to tell her the whole truth. I drove home, my mind full of questions and doubts. When I walked in the door, I found Emily sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a cup of coffee. When I walked in, she looked up, her eyes red. Patrick, she said softly, I didn't think you'd be back so soon. I sat across from her, heavy-hearted. We need to talk, Emily. I need to know why you did this. She nodded, wiping away tears. I know I also have a part in this, and then I started to speak. I spoke firmly but not unkindly. Emily took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. A few months ago, Jack and I were working overtime on a project, and we just got in touch. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt the same feeling with him that I haven't felt in a long time. I clenched my fists and tried to control my emotions. What happened between us? What happened between us? She lowered her head, her voice almost a whisper. I don't know, Patrick. We've grown apart for a while, and I didn't realize how serious the problem was until Jack came along. So you decided to cheat on me? I asked, my voice rising. She looked up, not speaking to me. You chose to betray me. I'm sorry, she said, her eyes filling with tears again. I never meant to hurt you. I'm so confused. I've made a terrible mistake. I took a deep breath to try and steady myself. Do you love him? She shook her head firmly. No, it was never love, it was just a feeling. I thought I had lost her. The hurt was deep, but I needed to know the truth. Do you still want to be with me, Emily? She looked up at me with pleading eyes. Yes, Patrick, I love you. I want our relationship to continue, but I can also understand if you can forgive me." I stared at her, my mind racing with thoughts and emotions. I loved her, but the hurt of the betrayal was still deep, and the wound had not yet healed. Could I forgive her? Go back to the way things were? I don't know. In the end, I said I needed time to think. Emily nodded, her expression helpless. "You can take as long as you need. I'll be here waiting for you." I stood up, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. "I'll let you know my decision when I leave the house." I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, but at least I had taken the first step towards finding a solution. Over the next few days I was at Taylor's place, thinking carefully about everything Emily had said. My emotions were in turmoil: love, betrayal, anger, and sadness. Taylor was always there for me, giving me space when I needed it, and listening patiently when I was ready to talk. One evening, as we sat on his balcony, Taylor said, "You know, Patrick, sometimes it's not about fixing what's broken, it's about starting again." I looked at him confused. "What do you mean?" He sighed, took a sip of his beer, and said, Maybe breaking up with Emily wasn't the right decision, and maybe you need to focus on yourself first and figure out what you really want." He had a point, but the thought of breaking up with Emily was almost unbearable. We had built a life together and shared so many memories. How could I just abandon it all? How do I start? I felt lost and asked Tyler step by step. He replied that the first step is to decide what is best for you, not for Emily, not for anyone else, just for you. I nodded and accepted his advice. The next morning I woke up with a new goal. I needed to talk to Emily again, but this time on my terms. I drove back to our house with a firm resolve. Emily was sitting in the living room, looking up at me. Her face was etched with worry when I entered, but she said nothing. "Emily, we need to talk." My voice was steady, and she nodded, gesturing for me to sit down. "Okay, I'm listening." Taking a deep breath, I gathered my thoughts. I've been thinking about everything that's happened. And Tyler was right. Maybe we can fix what's broken, and maybe we need to start over. Her eyes widened, and fear and sadness flashed across her face. "Are you saying you want a divorce?" "I don't know. I admit it, but I think we need to separate for at least a while. I need time to figure things out, and I think you do too." Emily's face crumples, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Patrick, please. I know I messed up. But I love you and I want to make our relationship work." I feel a wave of guilt, but I push it aside. "I love you too, Emily, but right now I need to focus on myself. We both need." She nods and wipes away a tear. "If that's what you need, I'll respect your decision, but please, Dante, give up on us completely." "I want to. Emily, I promised you. But we need to take some time apart to see if we can rebuild our relationship." We talked for a while, discussing the practicalities of the separation. Emily agreed to stay with friends for a few weeks to give us both some space. It was a difficult conversation, but I felt it was the right decision. I felt a strange sense of relief when Emily packed her bags and left the house. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time I felt like I was in control of my life. The house felt empty without Emily. The silence was unsettling, but it also gave me the space I needed to think. It took me a few days to adjust to my new life. Tyler visited regularly to make sure I wasn't drowning in my thoughts. One evening, he suggested we go to a new bar in the city center. "You need to get out of the house, Patrick, and clear your head." I reluctantly agreed, knowing he was right. When we arrived, it was dark and lively, and there were lots of people, but we managed to find 2 empty seats at the bar and ordered drinks. Tyler nudged me and said, "I'm not saying you need to start dating again, but it wouldn't hurt to strike up a conversation with a stranger." I looked around and felt a little out of place. "I don't know, Ty. I'm really not in the mood right now." He shrugged, took a sip of his beer, and said, "Think of it as enjoying life. You deserve it." I nodded, but all I could think about was Emily and everything that had happened. I needed a distraction, something to take my mind off the chaos in my life. This distraction came in the form of a lady sitting next to me. She was tall, with dark hair and loose curls that fell over her back. She glanced at me and smiled, her green eyes sparkling. "She said that if I was just going to sit there, I didn't mind at all," I replied, her voice warm and inviting. I reached out and said, "I'm Rachel Patrick." We started talking, and to my surprise, it was very easy. Rachel was smart and funny, and she had a way of making me feel relaxed that I hadn't felt in weeks. As the night wore on, we talked about everything from favorite movies to career aspirations. It felt good to connect with a new friend and forget my troubles for a while. Taylor eventually left, giving me a meaningful look before he left. I continued talking with Rachel until the bar closed. On leaving, she gave me her phone number. She said that maybe we could get together again sometime. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of excitement and unease. Over the next few weeks, Rachel and I started to meet up regularly. It was nothing major, just the two of us enjoying each other's company. She knew about Emily and I, and she was understanding and patient. Meanwhile, Emily and I continued to live apart. We kept in touch mainly by text and the occasional phone call. She was focusing on her own recovery with a friend. It was hard, but space seemed to be helping us both. One afternoon, I decided to visit my parents. They had been worried about me and wanted to know how I was getting on. I sat in their comfortable living room and drank the cup of tea my mother had offered me. My mother looked at me with concern and asked, "Patrick, are you really doing well?" Her voice was gentle. I sighed and set the cup down. I was trying. It was hard, but I think the separation was the right decision. My father nodded, his expression serious. "Sometimes you need to take a step back to see things clearly. Have you thought about what you want to do next?" my mother asked me, and I hesitated, not knowing how to answer. "I don't know yet. I'm seeing someone new, but it's no big deal. Emily and I are still figuring things out." My mother reached out and took my hand. "Take your time, Patrick, you'll figure it out." I left my parents' house feeling a little relieved, reassured that they were right, that I needed to take things one step at a time. I felt a glimmer of hope despite the uncertainty of the future. As the days passed, my life slowly returned to normal. I spent time with Rachel, who became a steady source of support and entertainment. She understood my relationship with Emily, and our relationship remained relaxed and casual, but Emily was always on my mind. Our separation had given me time to think, but it had also created unresolved tensions. We needed to have a serious conversation about our future. I decided it was time to face her again and see if there was anything left to salvage. I called Emily and asked if we could meet. She agreed, and we arranged to meet at a quiet cafe we often frequented when I arrived. Emily was already there and was drinking tea. When I approached her, she looked up, her face a mixture of anxiety and hope. "Hi, Patrick," she said softly. "Hi, Emily," I replied, sitting down opposite her. We sat in silence, both of us unsure of where to begin. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, "We need to talk about us, about what's going to happen next." I tried to keep my voice steady. Emily nodded, her eyes glistening with unwashed tears. "I know I've thought a lot about it too. Do you still love me?" I asked bluntly, needing to hear her answer. She looked down at her hands and then back up at me. "Yes, Patrick, I love you. But if you can forgive me, I can understand. What I did was unforgivable." I sighed and felt my chest heavy. "I don't know if I can ever forget what happened, but I can't ignore the years we've spent together, the real things we have, the things worth fighting for." Emily nodded, her expression serious. "I want to fight for us, Patrick. I know I messed up. I know. I want to make it easy, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust." "Trust is hard to rebuild," I said, echoing Taylor's words, "but maybe we can try to take it slowly, step by step." She smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes." Over the next few hours we talked seriously, putting everything on the table, from the reasons behind her affair to the things missing in our relationship. It was painful and brutal, but I felt it was necessary. When we left the cafe, I felt a strange mixture of relief and unease. We still had a long way to go, but at least we had taken the first step towards healing. That evening, I called Rachel and told her about my meeting with Emily. She listened quietly, and I was comforted by her understanding and patience. "Patrick, I want you to do what's best for you," she said. "If it means making peace with Emily, then I support you. You need to listen to your heart." "Thank you, Rachel," I said, thanking her for her kindness. "I appreciate your understanding. I still want to see how our relationship develops, but I need to first sort things out with Emily, slowly." She replied that I had her support no matter what happened. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I continued to work hard to repair our relationship. We attended counseling sessions to dig deeper into the issues and tried to rebuild the trust that had been broken. It was a slow process, full of setbacks and small victories, but we worked on the issues at the same time. I continued to keep in touch with Rachel, who became a confidant, someone I could talk to without judgment. Our relationship remained relaxed and uncomplicated, in contrast to the heavy emotional work with Emily. One evening, after a particularly intense counseling session, I found myself at a crossroads. I sat in my car staring at my phone. I had two numbers in my contacts, Emily and Rachel, two different paths, two different futures. I dialed Rachel's number and needed her perspective. She answered, "Hey Patrick," her voice warm and comforting. "Hey Rachel, can we meet? I need to talk." "Of course," she replied. "Come over, I'm here." I drove to Rachel's house, my mind full of thoughts and doubts. When I arrived, she welcomed me with a hug and led me to the sofa to sit down. I let all the words come out of my heart. "I'm so confused, Rachel," I said, my voice choking. "I love Emily, but I don't know if I can ever fully trust her again. And then there's you. You've always been so understanding and supportive. I don't know what to do." Rachel took my hand. Her touch was soothing. "Patrick, I can tell you what to do, but whatever decision you make, it must be about you, not Emily or me." I nodded, tears running down my face. I didn't want to hurt anyone, but I didn't want to go on living like this. She leaned in and kissed my forehead gently. "Take your time, listen to your heart, and you'll find the right path." That night, as I left Rachel's house, I felt a sense of clarity. I hadn't found all the answers yet, but I knew I needed to follow my heart, wherever it led me. On the drive home from Rachel's house, I was in a state of deep contemplation. I knew that every step I took from now on would determine my future, and I needed to be absolutely sure of my decision. The choices ahead of me were daunting, but I sensed a glimmer of hope. That night, I returned home to a house that was eerily quiet. They gave us the space we each needed. I walked through the empty room, memories of happy times flashing through my mind, our laughter, our arguments, moments of peaceful contentment, all part of our life together. The next morning, I decided it was time to talk to Emily again. I needed to be honest with her about everything, including my feelings for Rachel. It was the only way to move forward, whether that meant trying to rebuild our marriage or letting go. I called Emily and asked if we could meet, and she agreed. We arranged to meet in the park, where we used to go for our Sunday walks. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting on a bench by the pond. When I approached her, she looked up, her face a mixture of hope and fear. She said softly, "Hi, Patrick." I replied, "Hi, Emily," and I sat down next to her. We sat in silence for a while, watching the ducks glide across the water. Finally, I turned to her, and the words I was about to say weighed heavily on me. "Emily, I've been thinking, and I need to be completely honest with you." She nodded, her eyes fixed on mine. "I appreciate that too. I've been thinking too." I took a deep breath and peered at myself. "I still love you, Emily, but I don't know if we can go back to the way things were. Trust has been broken, and I don't know if it can be completely rebuilt." Her eyes are full of tears, but she doesn't look away. "Understand, Patrick, I know I've hurt you deeply, and I don't expect to be forgiven overnight. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. I have more to say, and I feel a lump in my throat. I've been seeing someone else. Her name is Rachel, and she's been really good to me this whole time. Our relationship is casual, but it's made me realize that maybe we should just let each other go." Emily's face crumples, and tears stream down her cheeks. I see. So you're saying you want a divorce?" I shook my head, my own eyes filling with tears. "I don't know if I want to try to work things out, but another part of me feels that we both need to move on. I just want to be honest with you about everything." She nodded, wiping away her tears. "I appreciate your honesty, Patrick, really I do, but it hurts. I still love you, and I want to fight for us. But I also understand if you need to move on." We were both silent for a while, both lost in thought. Finally, Emily spoke. "Maybe you're right," she said, her voice trembling. "Maybe we need to take a step back and see if there's still a chance to rebuild. I love you, Patrick, but I don't want to hold you back if your heart is somewhere else." I took her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "I love you too, Emily, but I think we both need time to sort things out. Let's take this separation seriously and see where it takes us." She nodded, tears still streaming down her face. "Okay, let's do this." We stood up and I embraced her. It was a bittersweet moment, full of sadness and a hint of hope. As we parted, I felt a sense of determination that this was the right decision, no matter how painful. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I stayed apart. We spoke occasionally, but we were both focused on our own healing. I continued to go to see Rachel, who was always supportive and understanding. One evening, Rachel and I were having dinner at her house when she looked at me thoughtfully and asked, "How are you feeling about all of this?" Her eyes were full of concern. I put down my fork and sighed, saying, "It's been hard, but I think it was the right decision. Emily and I need some time apart. Thanks for your support, Rachel. You're wonderful." She smiled and held out her hand, shaking mine across the table. "Patrick, no matter what happens, I'll support you," she said. As I looked into her eyes, I felt a sense of calm. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I knew I was on the right path, whether it led me back to Emily or to a new life with Rachel. The following weeks were spent in reflection and introspection. Emily and I maintained our separation, giving each other space to heal and think during this time. I continued to meet with Rachel, who provided me with much-needed support and companionship. But even as our relationship deepened, the unresolved issues between Emily and I continued to haunt me. One night, I decided to go to see my therapist, Dr. Matthews. I needed to sort things out, and I hoped he could help me make sense of my confused emotions. As I sat in his comfortable office, I felt a sense of relief. This is a safe place where I can speak freely. "Dr. Matthews, I'm at a crossroads in my life," I started. "I've been seeing Rachel, and she's great. But I still have these feelings for Emily that I can't let go of. I don't know what to do." Dr. Matthews nods, his expression thoughtful, his eyes understanding. "Patrick, you've been through a lot, and it's normal to feel conflicted. Let's analyze it. How do you feel when you're with Rachel?" I take a deep breath and consider his question. "Rachel makes me feel understood and supported. She is kind and patient, and our relationship is relaxed and easygoing, which is something I haven't felt for a long time." "And Emily?" Dr. Matthews asked gently. "Emily's situation is complicated. I admit that we have a lot of history together, both good and bad. I still love her. But trust has broken down, and I'm afraid we'll never be able to go back to the way things were." Dr. Matthews leaned back in his chair and fixed me with a determined gaze. "Patrick, it's important to understand that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt, but it requires time and effort from both sides, as well as a willingness to forgive and move on. Do you think you and Emily are willing to make that effort?" I sighed, feeling the weight of his words. I wasn't sure if Emily was willing, but deep down I was afraid of being hurt again. And Rachel, I didn't want her to get the wrong idea if my heart was still in love with Emily. Dr. Matthews nodded. This was a difficult situation, but it was vital to be honest with both Emily and Rachel. They both deserved to know where you stood. "Have you spoken to Rachel about your feelings for Emily?" "Not really. I admit I didn't want to hurt her. But I know I need to be honest. Transparency is key. Dr. Matthews said to talk to Rachel, and when you're ready, talk to Emily. You need to be clear about what you want, and clarity comes from being honest with yourself and with them." I left Dr. Matthews' office feeling a little relieved, but also aware that I still had difficult conversations to face that evening. I called Rachel and asked if we could meet, and she suggested a quiet restaurant called The Calf, which I agreed to. When I arrived, Rachel was already there, with a warm smile on her face. We ordered drinks and sat in the corner. "Patrick Booth, you sounded serious on the phone." Over the phone she said she was staring at me with her eyes. "What are you thinking?" I took a deep breath and gathered my thoughts. "Rachel, I need to be honest with you. I've been thinking a lot about my relationship with Emily, and I realize that I still have feelings for her." Rachel nodded, her expression inscrutable. "I appreciate your honesty, Patrick. I knew there was a possibility of this when we started dating. I care about you very much, Rachel." I continued, "But I don't want to mislead you or hurt you. I need to sort things out with Emily first before I can really move forward." Rachel reached across the table and took my hand. "I understand, Patrick. I want you to do what's best for you. If that means taking a step back to sort things out with Emily, then I support you. "Thank you, Rachel," I said, squeezing her hand. "You've been great, and I appreciate your understanding." We finished our wine, hugged a little, and parted. I walked back to my car and felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Rachel deserved someone who loved her wholeheartedly, and I happened to be able to do that. However, the next day I called Emily and asked if I could meet her. She agreed, and we decided to meet at our place when I got home. She was waiting anxiously in the living room. "Patrick, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice trembling. I took a deep breath and sat down opposite her. Emily, I need to be honest with you. I've been seeing Rachel and she's wonderful, but I realize I still have unresolved feelings for you. I can continue with her until we've resolved our problems. Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. I understand. Patrick and I are willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild our trust and relationship. But we have to be honest with each other and take things one step at a time. I agree. I say, my voice firm. Let's start by taking things slowly. We'll continue our counseling sessions, and we'll work on rebuilding trust and communication. Emily smiles through her tears, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. I can do this. I promise to work hard, just as we do when we embrace. I feel a sense of determination. The road ahead is uncertain, but we are willing to work hard. It won't be easy, but it's a step in the right direction. In the days that followed, Emily and I experienced an emotional roller coaster and hard work. I promised to rebuild our relationship. Little by little, day by day, it wasn't easy, but we were determined to bring our relationship back to life. We regularly attended counseling sessions to learn to communicate more effectively and resolve the issues that had caused us to separate. Our counselor, Dr. Parker, guided us through exercises that helped us rebuild trust and reconnect on a deeper level. One evening, after a particularly intense discussion, Emily and I sat on the porch sipping tea and reflecting on our progress. You know, Emily said in a soft voice, I really appreciate these sessions. It feels like we're finally starting to understand each other again. I nod, feeling a wave of warmth and hope. So do I. It's been a tough process, but I think we're on the right track. She takes my hand and squeezes it gently. Thank you for giving us another chance. Patrick, I promise I'll do my best to make things work. I return her handshake, feeling a wave of love and determination. Together we go, Emily, step by step. As the weeks turned into months, we worked hard at our relationship. We dated, rediscovered our shared interests, and tried to spend time together. Slowly, the wounds began to heal, and trust began to rebuild. One Saturday afternoon, Emily and I decided to go hiking, our favorite activity that we hadn't done in a long time. The trail was quiet. Trail was peaceful. As we walked hand in hand, the autumn leaves crunched under our boots. It felt so good. Emily took a deep breath of the fresh mountain air and said, Being here with you makes me smile. I squeezed her hand. Yes, it reminds me of when we first started dating. She chuckles softly. I remember how we used to come here all the time. We reach a scenic lookout point, the valley bathed in golden sunlight, and we sit on the rocks to admire the view. Emily leans her head against my shoulder, and I put an arm around her shoulders. Patrick, after a while, she says thoughtfully, I've been thinking about what's happened, and I realize that rebuilding our relationship is not just about repairing the past, but about creating a new future together. I nod, understanding what she means. You're right, we can change the past, but we can learn from it and make sure we don't make the same mistakes again. She looked up at me with determination in her eyes. I want to create a future with you, Patrick, one in which we can both be happy and fulfilled. I want that too, Emily. I said with all my heart, love and hope. Let's make it happen. As we walked back along the path, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead was still uncertain, but we were walking together, ready to face any challenge. Back home, we decided to cook together, something simple and comforting, and as we worked side by side in the kitchen, I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I hadn't felt in a long time. After dinner, we sat on the sofa, snuggled up, covered by the blanket snuggled together. Emily had a shy smile on her face. Patrick, I want to talk to you, she said, her voice a little hesitant. What do you want to say? I asked curiously. I know it's early, but I've been thinking about our future, about the life we want to lead. She took a deep breath and said, I want to start a family with you, of course, when we're ready. Her words took me by surprise, but in a good way. I smiled and felt a warm current spread through my body. I hope so too, Emily. When the time is right, I think it would be wonderful. She smiled, with tears of happiness in her eyes. I was so happy to hear those words. I just want you to know that whatever the future holds, I am committed to our future. We sat there, quietly embracing. The road ahead would undoubtedly have its ups and downs, but I was sure that together we could face them in the weeks to come. Emily and I grew closer and closer. We celebrated small victories, like a day without arguing or finishing a difficult tutoring exercise. We also learned how to deal with setbacks, seeing them as opportunities to learn and grow. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to Emily and took her hand. Emily, I want to say to you that my heart begins to beat faster. I realize that despite everything that has happened, my love for you has only grown. I want to continue fighting for us, for our future. I want to rebuild our life together, and I believe we can make it better than before. Tears fill her eyes as she squeezes my hand. I feel the same way, Patrick. I love you, and I'm so grateful for this second chance. Let's continue to build our future together, step by step, just like the sun setting over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the earth. I feel a sense of peace and contentment. Emily and I have been through the darkest of times, but we have emerged stronger. Our journey is far from over, but we are ready to face it together, guided by love and hope. Patrick and Emily have thus begun a new chapter in their lives, drawing on the lessons of the past and full of hope for the future. Their journey is a testament to the power of love, tolerance, and fighting for what really matters.